My name's Andrew. I have experience with psilocybin mushrooms as well as ayahuasca ceremony, DMT, and MPMA. I first wanted to explore psychedelics as a means of healing when I was about 30. Well, I think I started thinking about it when I was like 35, and then never got the opportunity to do so until I was maybe like 37 or 38. Prior to psychedelics, my life was a mess. Probably a normal messed up upbringing. I was born to a teenage mom with a completely absent dad. Just was exposed to a ton of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, a lot of housing insecurity and food insecurity, and not a lot of guidance, just survival. Became a father at 17. By then I was already just a mess, so angry, so aimless, so lost, disconnected from community and family. All of that trauma and experience just led to more trauma. Pretty terrible father, probably. Didn't have any idea what I was doing. And just struggled to survive, struggled to pay the bills, barely keep a job for the most part, would drink my paycheck and party hard on the weekends, and lived in sort of a filthy, crappy home, and that just continued. I ended up having my second child when I was 26. He was born very premature, severely disabled, and went through a few years of some of the hardest trials of my life, and some of the most painful. And ended up being extremely depressed, suicidal, had a serious suicide attempt at the time, was absolutely not okay, not thriving, not functioning in the world at all, really destructive. And ended up transitioning, getting married, and transitioning to another, yet again, really abusive relationship. And over those years, had sought out therapy and support at different points in time, but never found anything that clicked, never had the resources, never had the insurance to cover therapy, couldn't afford to go, so on and so forth. Couldn't find a good therapist. And finally connected with a fabulous woman who specializes in early childhood trauma. I never even had framed it as trauma, right? But it just finally clicked for me and really connected well with her, and spent maybe 5 years seeing her often weekly for the first few years. And through talk therapy, that helped a little bit, but my life was still chaos. Everything was falling apart. I was utterly miserable in my relationship. I was unfulfilled at work. I wasn't showing up as the dad I wanted to be. And I had a few friends who were veterans and who had brought up to me some excitement around some of the people that they had been in combat with, exploring psychedelics as a medium for healing their trauma, and that really brought it up to me because I was not okay. Really, really not okay. And ended up being able to build a little bit of community support, leave a really destructive relationship, live on my own for the first time, but still highly dependent on anti-anxiety meds and depression medication, and I'd try to get off of them and crash. And talk therapy only gets you so far. Like, you can only rationalize it so much, but if it never goes from your brain to the rest of you, you just like carry that trauma. And I really hope that psychedelics would allow me to feel that stuff and let go of it instead of just thinking about it all the time. So that's how I arrived at wanting to explore psychedelics and what they had to offer. I really had no idea. I had no point of reference. It wasn't to party, it wasn't to have fun, it was to desperately try to just be okay. So when I was finally given the opportunity to try psychedelics, I didn't really know what to expect. I read a little bit and talked to people about their experiences, very just on the periphery, a handful of conversations, but just felt so ready to, almost out of desperation, but also just trust and curiosity to step forward into that new experience. And so what did that look like? That's an almost impossible thing to describe, I suppose, because it's so overwhelming and so variable. But what most of my psychedelic experiences have been at home, alone, in bed, in the dark, with specific intentions of things that I'd like to work through. And so in that space, most of my experiences have been what I've heard described as like shamanic, out of body. So typically I go through a period of death where I literally see myself from the exterior as though I was like looking down at myself and watch myself die. And it's not scary, it's a really beautiful thing. It's this like, this is death and it's okay, and it's really, really, really beautiful. And then I leave into a different place. I'm in a different realm, in a different universe. And am shown things in a way that it always feels so like an undeniable truth. So you might have a trauma that you experienced that you haven't processed, and suddenly it shows up in front of you, and it's like, here's this thing. And it could be in some crazy way, like it could be a goddess handing you an Easter egg that you open to get the candy out, and there's your trauma laying inside, and you get to like hold that trauma in your hands and look at it and grieve it, which sounds maybe again really scary, but to like hold that pain in your hands and just cry to the depths of your being and feel it and just let go of all of the guilt and grief and suffering that it caused, and just like let it fly away. And that could be something that you've talked about in therapy for 3 years, some little thing, and you finally get to let it go. It's not about understanding it, it's just about feeling it and letting it go. And so that's been tremendously healing. And then I had this big shift where I went from really just living as a victim of these traumas to realizing that I no longer had to live as a victim of these traumas. fully as a result of my psychedelic experiences and transitioning to, well, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the room? How can I do better for my children? How can I be a better partner, a better member of the community? And so in some of my later psychedelic experiences, it hasn't been letting go of trauma, but it's being shown a beautiful vision for the future of what could be. And those experiences have, given me sort of they don't fix it, they don't manifest it, they don't make it happen, but it's like, here's the end goal, here's the goal. My goal is just to get there. And I think, that's been such a gift. It's also just opened me up so much spiritually. I mean, I was never agnostic as could be, you know, just like, we're just like bags of meat that die and rot on the ground and life goes on. You know, that's where I was at before. And I've been so awakened spiritually and have such deep faith, not in some religious God, but just in like existence, in purpose. I've just come to believe that there's so much more greatness out there and so much more love and purpose than I know how to articulate, and that I matter. And I don't feel like I mattered before. And the things that I do matter. I think what that's manifested in my life and where that's brought me to now is such a sense of thriving. Such a deep commitment and desire to show up fully, to realize the tremendous gifts that are all around me every day in this life, and to, you know, develop deeper bonds in friendship and in community, and to shed all of these, or, you know, try to shed all of these negative narratives that I have. Would I say that psychedelics changed my life? Oh man. Yes. Psychedelics played a big part in changing